So, Chris and Elaine, what is it about this region that inspires you to keep producing these aesthetically, visually stunning, and fascinating content-wise books about our heritage?
Hmm. Thank you for that lovely description. This area is incredibly rich with a diverse amount of history, and it's never ending. I mean, we've got the War of 1812 history, which most people know about. Then we have the auto heritage, because Henry Ford came over in 1904 and started up Ford Canada right here in Walkerville, Windsor. And then we have we have Black history as well, because Windsor was a main entry point for enslaved people crossing into the promised land because of our southern location. So that is a huge element of our, an interesting element of our past as well. And then we have the very fact that we're on a border with the US has created a lot of interesting, unique types of history that you wouldn't necessarily find in other parts of Canada, perhaps.
What is your founding writing experience? How did you get started in writing?
I was a voracious reader during elementary school and always enjoyed English class and, creating stories, etc. And studied English in university. In terms of actually writing a book, we did mostly publications, periodicals prior to attempting an actual book. And people might know or remember us for the Walkerville Times, which celebrated Walkerville's past and present, which started in 1999. We did 61 issues of that.
And Chris, how did you find yourself in this publishing niche?
We bought our Mac and we got into what was called desktop publishing right away. We were like one of the first companies in the world to do that. And we've been in digital publishing in one form or another ever since. And one thing just led to another. It wasn't very well planned, because when I graduated, I had no idea we were going to go into the publishing business. That was not the plan. And we've been doing that now for, how many years is that? 35 years.
It's incredible, because we're only 49.
Yeah.
Correct?
We are, of course, famous for our distilleries here in Windsor and the rum running heritage. So what made you take on beer?
We had published some stories in other books regarding beer. We did the history of the Walkerville Brewery and the history of the British American Brewery. And these were written by a friend of ours, Bill Marentet. He was a local historian and also known as a breweryanist, category of collecting I never knew about, but breweryanists are passionate about beer. And Bill had quite a remarkable collection in his basement of Windsor beer. So he was a buddy of ours and we hung out with him. He was a real character. And his daughter called me and said that Bill had died of COVID in January. And I was looking on my shelf and I had these 5 chapters that Bill had written on history of beer in Windsor. And I looked at those 5 chapters and I said, well, Bill was always bugging me to do a book and we never got around to it. Let's do the book. And Bill had given me a lot of his archival material. So I called Mike Berkovich, who had purchased Bill's collection, and it resides at the Walkerville Brewery. So I went over and talked to Mike about it. He said, you can have access to anything I want. And then a couple other collectors reached out to me when they heard we were going to do the book and offered up their collection to use. And we created this outline with the original 6 breweries of Windsor. And then we expanded it to include a chapter on Detroit, because Detroit had a number of breweries and people in Windsor drank Detroit beer. And people in Detroit drank Windsor beer. Again, back to that whole border thing that Elaine was talking about. And then we said, well, everything kind of relates to Prohibition when it comes to alcohol. And 3 breweries were launched during Prohibition in this area. And these are big breweries. These are not microbreweries that we're used to now. These are big buildings with lots of capacity. And so we did a thing on Prohibition. And so we thought, well, where are you going to go drink beer? You're going to go to a bar. So we we put together this super list of bars that have disappeared from Windsor. We came up with more than 250 names, which is, it tells you a lot about, you need to know about Windsor. And